Thank you to HiRez Studios for sponsoring this video. For those of you who haven't heard of it before, Rogue Company is a free-to-play third-person shooter on all major current-gen consoles and PC. I played on Switch, naturally, because, well, look at the channel you're on. But since the game is free across the board, I would definitely recommend you checking it out on whatever platform you have access to find the one that you like playing on the best. And I'd recommend doing so for anybody that's just looking for something new to try out, especially if you're a Switch owner, since it generally lacks third-person shooters. And it's also important to note that you can play on whatever of these platforms that you choose, regardless of what your friends are playing on, because it has support for cross-play and cross-progression, which also means that if you start on one platform, you can decide to try another platform and completely migrate to that. After all, it's free, so you have nothing to lose except time, I guess. And it helps support this channel, which is a win-win in my book. Speaking of which, fans of the fanatixfour podcast in particular know that I'm a pretty big fan of competitive multiplayer games. So when HiRez Studios hit me up about highlighting Rogue Company on fanatixfour, it was a pretty good opportunity, especially since me and Bob have debated doing that for a while now. Small side note, we'll be doing exactly that on twitch.tv/fanatixfour this Thursday, so be sure to go over there and click the follow button so you know when we go live. It turns out right now is as good a time as any to jump in the Rogue Company because they just recently received a new character in the form of Dahlia and a new map in the form of Lockdown. I'm also told there's been a ton of quality of life improvements made to the game, but since I haven't played prior to now, I can't really speak to that personally. Also, HiRez Studios says that they plan to continue to frequently update the game with new content and more quality of life improvements. Now, as far as the minute-to-minute gameplay, Rogue Company is an objective-based hero shooter for the most part. Each rogue has a selection of primary weapons, a melee weapon, a secondary weapon, typically a pistol, gadgets like grenades, smoke bombs, stuff like that, one ability that you can choose to activate, a passive ability that just works as you play as the character, and a set of perks. All of these things need to be purchased with money that you're given each round that varies depending on how well you perform. Each of these matches last multiple rounds that start in a familiar way to fans of the Battle Royale shooter format. Both teams skydive onto the map to complete their objective. There are essentially two game modes, both of which follow a similar formula but differ in a few important ways that make them distinct from each other. The mode I spent the most time in so far was Demolition, a 4v4 mode where the attacking team plants and defends a bomb and the defending team attempts to defuse it. The winner of a match is determined once the bomb explodes or is defused, but in my experience, most matches were wrapped up before either team had a chance to perform their task by way of elimination. The second mode, Strikeout, is another 4v4 mode wherein both players attempt to hack objectives and eliminate all players on the enemy team. And then there's the newly added option to create custom matches, a feature that we'll be sure to check out live with you guys in the stream that I mentioned earlier. So again, be sure to follow and we'll check that out together. In these custom lobbies, you have the option to play with your friends in any of the game modes that I just mentioned, and you get to pick from any of the maps available rather than randomly dropping into whichever ones the game puts you in. At the time of filming this video, there are currently 9 maps available in Rogue Company: Skyfall, Favlas, Windward, Canals, Icarus, Factory, Vice, and the newest map, Lockdown. Most of the maps are playable in Demolition and Strikeout, with the only exception being High Castle, which is only playable in Demolition. From what I played, the maps seemed well designed, and traversing through them with the game's movement options, like the ability to climb onto and over obstacles laid out throughout the map, felt good. But beyond that, I'm sure I need to become more seasoned in Rogue Company to understand how each of these compare to each other and form preferences and all of that good stuff. For what it's worth, none of the maps I tried felt annoying to play on, and as a starting player, I feel that's all that really matters. With all of that introductory stuff out of the way, I want to talk about what drew me into Rogue Company before this video even came about: the character lineup. In Rogue Company, the playable characters are all fittingly called rogues, and they all belong to one of 6 different roles: duelists, or what other games commonly refer to as the attack class. Naturally, their game plan is to get the kills for your team. Defenders, which excel at objective-specific tasks and helping your team move in on the enemy team by way of barriers, stuff like that. Snipers specialize in range combat, what obviously snipers. Breachers help break down the enemy's defenses and clear the way for their team to advance on the opposite team. Supporters, which assist in combat by way of things like healing, and intel, whose goal is to acquire information to help the team gain an advantage in the match. In addition to gameplay specific differences, rogues can be further customized through cosmetic items like outfits, weapon skins, sprays, and emotes. The free-to-play version of Rogue Company comes with 6 rogues to choose from: Ronin, Trench, Dallas, Dima, Anvil, and Saint. HiRez provided me with a code for the Ultimate Founders Edition, which retails for $60. For that price, the rest of the current roster of rogues is unlocked, as well as exclusive emotes, outfits, sprays, and some in-game currency that can be used on additional in-game purchases, if that is something that you personally would be interested in. But for those of you who would be worried about being forced to spend money in a game like this, every character can be purchased without using real money by just playing the game and earning reputation through matches and completing dailies. After playing through the tutorial, I jumped into a real match, but the rogue that I wanted to choose was taken, so I was given another rogue to use in the first half of the game. The rogue the game assigned me was Trench, a defense type with a passive ability that affords him an extra gadget and an active ability that produces a field of barbed wire that slows the advancement of enemies. Trench was the only rogue that I tried that's included in the base roster of 6 for the free-to-play players, but just based on him, I'd say just picking up the free version and grinding to unlock everybody else would be plenty of fun for anybody that's hoping to jump in. I'd personally like to play Trench more in the future, maybe as a counter pick for when my initial choice is unavailable or maybe isn't viable for whatever reason in the current situation that I'm in. He was fun to play and I liked the second gadget a lot. However, I was still very fresh to the mechanics during my time with him, so I didn't really take advantage of his abilities as I should have. Each match gives every player the opportunity to change their rogue at the halfway point, at which point I decided to pick my character purely based on who I thought looked cool, as I am one to do with most character-based games. The character that I chose was Lancer, who coincidentally is a duelist type, which is a role that's similar to what typically resonates with me in games like this, so my simple yet admittedly superficial approach to choosing a character continues to be undefeated, but I digress. Lancer's passive ability allows her to reload her weapon by dodging, and her active ability gives her a short boost to her movement speed, quieter movement, and immunity to reveals for a short period or until you fire your weapon. So it's a good way to quickly move into enemy territory or get out if you need to. Out of all the characters I tried so far, Lancer is the one I think I'll be sticking with moving forward. Her tools allow for a fast-paced, aggressive playstyle, which is right up my alley. Most of my playtime so far has been with a friend of the channel, Max from Loot Pots, and his newly launched podcast, Questionable Takes, which you should check out. Everything's linked in the description down below. During that time, we played more Demolition mode, both the practice variant and the full mode. Considering the fact that Max lives in the UK and is therefore thousands of miles away from me, I'm impressed with how well the game performs online, and that is to say, I didn't experience any noticeable lag in the time we've played so far. For the most part, I enjoyed my time with Rogue Company, but I do have one complaint, and that would be the crazy long load times that I've experienced so far. To be fair, Max's load times for the game were significantly shorter than mine, so for all I know, this could be a problem specific to me, whether it be due to the SanDisk SD card I use or some other user-specific error. It also is important to note that this is the Switch version of the game. I'm sure the loading times are a lot better on more powerful hardware. All of that said though, I did find it necessary to voice that gripe because I'm sure plenty of you would like to play the Switch version, and maybe choosing another version would just be the better option if you have access to it. Apart from the load times, matches populated in a decent amount of time. That said, one of the matches we played had almost the entire enemy team drop out, and we played out a full match against a single person. Granted, we're super noobs to this game right now, so it was still pretty competitive. That said, we only had time to check out Demolition, so I'm not sure if that mode is any more or less popular and thus easier to find matches in, so keep that in mind. All in all, I can genuinely see Rogue Company being added to the rotation of multiplayer games that I play on my Nintendo Switch, especially if I find out that the load times is a personal problem and I can fix it by swapping out my SD card or something. I'm excited to see whatever future rogues, maps, and hopefully game types they add. Just in case HiRez is paying attention, they should definitely add motion aiming to the game on the Nintendo Switch. From what I played, the gunplay felt solid, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss having motion as a tool to refine my shot. Not having it isn't a deal breaker or anything like that, but having it would definitely be a welcome quality of life improvement. Also, I'd be interested to see what other player configurations they can add to the game in terms of game types. What if we have a 1v3 mode or a 2v2 mode? And those are my thoughts on Rogue Company on Nintendo Switch. Don't forget, you can check out the game on your platform of choice and support this channel by clicking the link in the description to download it. Thanks again to HiRez Studios for sponsoring this video, and thank you to all of you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to click the like button and share this video with a friend you'd like to play Rogue Company with. And most importantly, you should subscribe and ring the bell for more videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.